Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, bonamulawanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, their librarians, their principal. And please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Ghana, Himalaya, wherever you find your podcast. Before we invite our guests into the studio, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram and TikTok, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. We would also love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. We have an fantastic online magazine. It is called Reading with Your Kids. You're going to find some fantastic writing in the magazine, great author profiles, cooking with your kids, recipes, STEM activities you can do with your kids, find out what games you can play with your kids. So much there on the Reading with Your Kids online magazine, and it is free, and it is available at our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Join us right now from the absolutely beautiful state of Utah. Our guest is here today to celebrate something a little bit different. We're not celebrating a book, but we're celebrating some great times we can spend with our kids. Please welcome to the podcast the inventor, the driving force behind Dad Ventures, Aaron Airmet. Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Hello, all you listeners, and hello, Jed. I love the energy that you bring to the show.
Thank you. The energy is a little hard to find this morning. It was a fun weekend, and I'm looking forward to starting the week back up. And what a great way to start the week, but by talking about Dad Ventures decks. This seems like a really neat concept. I'm somebody's been doing educational magic shows around the country and around the world for 35 years. I'm very familiar with decks of cards, playing cards, but this sounds a little bit different and sounds like a lot more fun.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. It's called a game, for lack of a better term. I don't really know what better to call it, but the idea of Dad Ventures deck came to me on a Saturday evening. I was driving home. I was doing some gig delivery work, and trying to earn a couple of extra dollars. And I was really mentally berating myself that I had not spent that time with my kids. That I was out there doing the daily grind. And as I was driving home, I came enamored with this sort of paradox of, yeah, I'm really tired and I'm really busy, but I still want to engage and have fun with my kids. And yet when I got home, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, my creativity is spent. What am I supposed to do with my kids, right? Well, sure, you could go Google some ideas of what am I supposed to do with my kids, but that involves me pulling out my phone and Googling and looking through different websites and different mommy blogs or whatever. And I just didn't want to do that. So I was like, I wish I had just some really simple ideas that required no planning, no preparation, no money, that I could just pull an idea off the shelf and go and have some fun with my kids. So I kind of started working on this idea of this paradox. Dads are tired, but they want to engage with their kids, but they don't have any juice left in them. I want some really simple ideas that I don't have to go search for, that I just know that they're there, and if I pull it, I can go do it. And I started kind of working with this a little bit and kind of creating my own ideas and started writing them down. And then I came up with this other concept of, well, yeah, sure, dads can lead the adventure and lead the activity, but the kids need some investment. They need almost like some control over dads. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Robot Turtles, but the idea of Robot Turtles is that kids kind of get to program this turtle and they get to tell the adult what to do. So the adult kind of moves this turtle around the game board. Really fun game, super popular on Kickstarter. And so I kind of thought about, well, what if the kids also had a kid card? So dad pulls this dad card and he goes and has this adventure with his kids, but also the kids pull a kid card and it's like a wild twist. It's a surprise. And so the spontaneity comes as dad pulls the dad card, kids pull the kid card, they put it together, and they have a really crazy adventure together. They'd go have some outrageous fun and create epic memories. So I created a prototype of this, started playing it with my kids. They absolutely loved it. They were thrilled. I'm always I feel so warm in my heart when they're like, Dad, can we do a dad card? Can we go do a dad venture? I'm like, yeah, let's go do that. I gave a prototype. I printed off an Excel sheet. I printed it off, gave it to a dad down the street, a dad of 3 kids, and he had just started playing with it, and they loved it. He's like, we love that we created a new game every time we played. It was something different, right? Dad card, kid card, the combination of those was so spontaneous and so random that it was just so fun for them.
What a neat concept. And I got to be honest with you. I never thought of Googling what to do with my kids. It's probably because my kids are older right now. They're 27 and 30. But I absolutely can relate to the idea. There were times when I would come home from a tour. I'd be away all week, and I would come home, and I would literally finish my last show at 3 o'clock down in Philadelphia, hop in my van, and drive to Boston and be totally exhausted. And the last thing I wanted to do was to jump up and do something with my kids, but it was also the first thing I wanted to do. And it was also something that my wife needed me to do, because it was like, okay, you're home. Great. I'm out. And it was hard sometimes. But it was really, the thing that I always remember is when I pushed through that exhaustion and we went out and we did something, we did that 20, 30-minute activity together, whether it was going for a bike ride or sitting down and most often reading a book together, it was so wonderful. And so I love this idea. Really, really creative. You were just telling me before we started recording that you and your daughter engaged in a dad venture over the weekend.
Yeah, we did. So this is one of these previous Saturdays. This is a lot different than the Saturday where I was out doing gig work and doing the daily grind. It was a Saturday afternoon. We were probably a little bit bored around the house. My 5-year-old daughter comes to me. I'm a dad of 4, by the way. So my 5-year-old is the youngest. She comes to me and she's, she kind of says in that kind of whining, complaining voice that kids do when they kind of want something. And she says, Dad, can we do a dad card? And in that moment, I was like, I was creating content for the Dad Ventures deck. I was doing the daily grind. And in that moment, I flashed, I have this big to-do list, but I want to have fun with my daughter. And I kind of remembered, like, Bluey's dad from the Bluey TV show, where he's always, like, a little bit frustrated, but then he goes and plays with his kids. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So we did. I pulled the dad card, and the dad card was to go for a bike ride around the neighborhood. And, something super simple. But she pulled the kid card, and the kid card was everyone chooses a superhero, and during the adventure, act like that superhero. So I chose Batman, classic superhero, and she, on the spot, from her own imagination, created a superhero, which she called Rosie the Unicorn. I had never heard of Rosie the Unicorn before. I don't think she had ever heard of Rosie the Unicorn before, but all of a sudden, Rosie the Unicorn and Batman are out on their bikes going around the neighborhood. But yet, the magical thing that happened was this. As we're out there in the middle of our bike ride, her brain activated, and her imagination just started going wild. And all of a sudden, there was a story that we were involved in. We were Batman and Rosie. However, the Queen of Evilness had stolen a baby Jojo and had taken over the Batcave, which was our house. And our mission was to go reclaim the Batcave and save baby Jojo before the Queen of Evilness could turn her to evil forever, right? And so she started like doing all these moves out on the road. She said her horn can shoot lasers, so we kind of knock out all of the Queen of Evilness, all of her agents that are out there on the road. We get back home, and apparently the Queen of Evilness had like taken up residence in her bedroom, so we go up there and we kind of act out this little scene, and we defeat the Queen of Evilness, and we save baby Jojo, and then to celebrate, we went and had some hot cocoa, And so this whole thing took maybe 15, 20 minutes, right? But it was just, I pulled the dad card, she pulled the kid card, and her imagination went wild, and we had tons of fun.
I love that. The Queen of Evilness. Yes, that is definitely something a 5-year-old would come up with.
Yes.
So I know that you're speaking authentically. Such fun. And, I think that you're right. It's so hard when you're sitting down and your kid is looking at you and, Dad, I want to do something, but your kid knows that you're exhausted. And so it's like, okay, you say to your kid, what do you want to do? And now the kid's got this pressure on them, and it's like, I don't want to do anything too bad because I love my dad and I know he's tired and all this stuff. So the dad card, the kid card seems just like this really fun way out of that predicament.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the idea, is that these cards, these dad cards, are activities that require no planning, require no preparation, that you could just basically pick a card and go. We did another one on a Sunday afternoon. I pulled the dad card, and it was go for a nature walk outside. And the kids pulled a kid card, and it was teach dad to dance like a robot at some point during the adventure, right? So we went up to, we don't live in Park City here in Utah, but we drove up to Park City before the snow came. It was fall time. It was absolutely beautiful. Picked just a really simple walking trail that we took the kids on. Saw some historic buildings, some really beautiful nature. And right there during the end of it, they said, okay, Dad, we're going to now teach you to be a robot. And my 4 kids, they each taught me these little moves, and I had to go and dance like a robot all out on this nature walk. And so it was just fun and simple. We went on a little drive, had a nature walk, got outside, and little dance like robots. And so I loved it because I didn't have to think about anything. I didn't have to prepare anything. I don't have to spend any money, but it's just pull a dad card, kids pull a kid card, so they're invested. Now they have something silly they can do. And some of the kid cards are even a little bit more serious. Like some of them say, hey, ask Dad about, his first girlfriend or his first car and what he loved about it. Ask Dad about his most embarrassing moment or his proudest moment, and have him tell you the story during the dad venture. Some of them are silly, act like a superhero, act like a pirate, do a robot dance. And some of them are more like, hey, a little bit serious. Let's do some bonding. Let's share some stories, and you can get to know your dad a little bit more as you're out having some fun.
Well, I absolutely adore that idea. Here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast, we obviously celebrate reading with our kids, but also we really encourage families to share stories about themselves. Let your kids know about you. And kids love stories. They learn from stories, and they learn from characters that they love and they see in stories, and they love you. You are, as a dad, as a mom, as a caretaker, you are the most important person in your kids' lives. And they love hearing stories about you, your failures, your successes. I think they love hearing about the failures more than the successes because it allows them to see that you're a human being and that you survive those mistakes and pitfalls, things that they know that they're going to have to survive themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm curious, what was the moment like when this idea came to you and you decided that you were going to try to turn this into a business and run a Kickstarter? What did the rest of the family say? Like, no, this is fun for our home, or were they like, yeah, go for it, Dad?
Yeah, so the night I actually, because I was thinking about the paradox, again, exhausted dads want to hang out with their kids. And according to Pew Research, dads say that hanging out with their kids is the most rewarding thing they do, but also the most exhausting thing they do. So I was thinking about that paradox. And then I remembered a couple other different card games, the other things that I had seen just kind of around there. And I went to bed that night about 11 o'clock, but I didn't fall asleep until about 2 or 3 a.m. just because my brain, all of a sudden, it clicked. I was like, oh, these dad cards. Okay, well, what would the activities that a dad would do? Oh, so I kind of write stuff down. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. And then boom, oh, a kid card. Well, what could the kid cards be? So then I kind of write all that stuff down. And so my brain just kind of went going. The next day, I told it to my wife, but it was the first time I'd actually said it out loud. And so I didn't really know how to explain it. And I said, hey, there's this card game for dads and kids, and she was sort of like, okay, that's a good idea. We could try that, and I didn't really know how to explain it. So I kind of thought about it a little bit more, thought about the story a little bit more. And then the day after that, I was talking to my own dad. And at that point, kind of a lot of the details had fallen into place. I kind of knew how to explain it. And I said, Dad, think about this dad deck, dad pulling a kid card. And it was so much fun just collaborating with my dad. He started to riff on some of the ideas and give me some feedback. And then at the end of that conversation, my own dad said, well, can I be your first financial backer? How much money do you need? Can I give you some money for this? And I was like, I don't even know if this is going to be a business, if it's going to be a thing. I have no idea. So I just kind of started messing around with the idea. He ended up giving me some money, and we have some samples and some limited quantities available. So right now we're launching a Kickstarter to raise funds to generate that first inventory run. The family's been really supportive. As I said, we've done some of these dad ventures with my own kids. They absolutely love it. The dads that I've given the deck to, they and their kids have absolutely loved it. And it's just been a real blast just creating memories and spending time with your kids ever since.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk about the Kickstarter a little bit more, but I'm curious. I love talking to authors and asking them about the various drafts and how their story came to be. I'm curious, as you're coming up with these ideas, dad ideas, kid card ideas, were there any that either your dad or your wife went through and said, no, this one is totally inappropriate. This is not going in the deck and get torn up?
There were a handful. Unfortunately, Jed, I can't remember them off the top of my head because they must have been so bad. But yeah, there were a handful. There were some that were like that would have required a little bit of money or a little bit more planning or preparation. As the kind of idea evolved, and so anything that sort of required a little bit more than just I'm going to pull a dad card and go. We scratched those pretty early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the name of the cards, dad cards, it's a lot of fun, but I'm guessing, there are a lot of kids out there who don't have a biological dad or a legal dad in their life, but they have uncles and they have grandparents and they have a mom. Is a dad card something that a mom can play, a grandfather can play, an uncle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is geared, designed by a dad for dads, really. But the beautiful thing about it is you could just replace dad with any sort of dad-like figure if you wanted to, uncle, granddad, community or religious, dad-like figure. Also, if moms wanted to try this out, they absolutely could. There's nothing inherent about being a dad that if you weren't actually a dad or you didn't actually have a dad as a kid, that the dad deck wouldn't work for you. The Dad Ventures deck would not work. But the reason I did call it Dad Ventures and sort of targeting dads is because you look at the landscape of blogs and content and websites and products, and I think that the mom sort of targeted content and products outnumber dad targeted products like 5-1 almost. And I think dads really get forgotten a lot. I think they're either portrayed in movies as the emotionally distant tyrants or the buffoons. Rarely do you see dads as the wise, the protectors sort of thing. Also, I walked around Barnes and Noble and lots of great books about parenting in general. But when you look at what's the real books and stuff for dads specifically, it's like, okay, dad, your wife is pregnant and you're going to have a baby. Here's how you change diapers. Well, being a dad is a lot more than, helping out a new mom who's just had a kid, right? You're going to raise that kid till they're 18. And even after they move out, you're still going to be that dad. I remember when my wife first got pregnant with our first child, and I was talking with a friend of mine at college, and he said, "You're going to be a dad." I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "You will never not be a dad again." And I was kind of floored by that. I was like, holy cow. Yeah, I'm always going to be a dad now, like always. And so, and I looked around and I thought, hey, dads kind of get forgotten a little bit. They need some help. They need some support. Not that takes anything away from moms or other dad-like figures or other caretakers that are in kids' lives. All of them are important. All of our children are valuable and important. And everyone has some unique gifts and roles and value that they bring to the raising of the next generation. And so the reason I kind of double down on the dads is I just think dads need a little help sometimes, and they kind of get forgotten. And I'm here to celebrate dads on the literal adventure of a literal lifetime of being a dad.
Well, I agree. Dads don't get portrayed. We love to talk about representation here on the podcast and how important it is for kids to be able to see themselves and their families portrayed positively in the pages of books. And in a lot of, not so many books, but definitely in the pop culture and movies, in TV shows, dads are often portrayed, as you said, the tyrant or the dummy. And dad is such an important figure in a kid's life. And being a great dad is a wonderful, wonderful gift that a man can give to himself. You're giving it to your kids too, but it's also, like you said, it's a great adventure. It's something you're doing for the rest of your life. And if you do it right, it's pretty wonderful. And what a great gift to help parents, help dads do this right. We mentioned that this is, right now there's a Kickstarter going on, and I wasn't sure when we set this up if we were going to be able to publish this episode while the Kickstarter was still live, but we do still have some time left. And I love the idea of Kickstarters, these crowdfunding platforms where a family can get together and say whether it's a music project or a game or a book, hey, do we like this as a family? Do we want to contribute to this? Do we want to help this, make this happen? And that's something a Kickstarter campaign can do. And I love that families can get together and back up dad ventures. What I know in most Kickstarter campaigns, there are different goodies that families can get for being investors, if you will. I know that's not the proper term, but
Backers,
yes. We want to make sure we're legal here. So what kind of things can families get if they decide to back you?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, to find the Kickstarter, you can go to our website, adventures.dad, and there's a big button right at the top to go to Kickstarter. There's a lot of different reward tiers that are available for backers. We range anywhere from a $1 backing reward. In that case, the goodies there are, I will send you a virtual high five and a shout out in an Instagram reel on the adventures.dad Instagram account. Also, we've got a $30 tier, which is, with that particular tier, we will send you the Dad Ventures deck once it is produced. And no shipping is involved in that, and you will have our eternal gratitude and thanks forever. On some of our higher tiers, I can't remember exactly the pledge level for this one, but we do have a higher tier where we will print your family's name on the box of Dad Ventures deck. So I've got the sample right here, Jed. This is what the box will look like. But families will you can send me your family name, and I will print a personalized copy of the packaging of the deck for you on that one. We even have our highest tier, which is, if you go for that, you become a backer on that highest tier, I will personally fly out to your house and deliver the Dad Ventures deck to your door and give you a great big actual high five for being a backer and making the Dad Ventures deck a reality. So there's lots of different tiers, lots of different rewards available. If you go to adventures.dad, click the Kickstarter button there, you can see all the different rewards, and you can decide which one of those works best for your family.
Well, I love this idea, and the neat thing is I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wow, if when the Dad Ventures deck takes off, next year there could be a Dad Ventures Christmas, a Dad Ventures summertime, all sorts of different deck ideas.
Or grandparents and kids, or a couple's edition, or, there's lots of different ways, lots of different directions we could take this, and so this is just the beginning. And we need all the backers and all the sharing of the campaign that we can to help us get started. And we're out there to celebrate dads and to celebrate families. Really, Jed, my aspirational goal is I'm trying to change society and change the world, one dad and one kid at a time, right? And helping them strengthen that relationship, and over time, helping society level out a little bit maybe by the influence of good dads on their kids.
I love that. I love that. And I wish you great luck. I wonder, have you taken the time to sit down, maybe you and your wife, you and your kids, to think, wow, there are going to be hundreds, thousands of families playing with the Dad Ventures decks and coming together and growing closer and giving each other great big hugs after we play these games. Do you ever take time and think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I kind of have this vision of 1 million dads out there and kids coming to their dads. And just like my 5-year-old daughter came to me saying, Dad, can we do a dad card? Right? And dads going out there and having a 15, 20-minute bike ride around the neighborhood with their own version of Batman and Rosie the Unicorn saving baby Jojo from the Queen of Evilness. And just having so much fun. And for me, it's not so much of, oh, yeah, they had the deck and we had a part in that, but more it's just like, dude, dads are out there bonding with their kids. They're having outrageous fun. They're creating epic memories, and they're building these, like, unbreakable bonds that maybe we did have a little bit of help. Maybe we were just the nudge, just the springboard to get them out the door and to go have some fun together. Just the thought of that, it thrills me, it excites me, it humbles me all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, we want to absolutely encourage families to check out the Kickstarter campaign. What a neat thing to be able to sit down with your kid and say, yeah, we were part of this, and this is really cool. Going into Barnes & Noble in a year or two and seeing the dad decks there and thinking, we were part of that.
Yeah, you were part of that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I even do, you reminded me, Jed, I do have some reward tiers where if you do pledge, that we will write your name as a VIP in the credits of the game, and it will be shipped out with every future version of the Dad Ventures deck as you were a VIP, you were a backer who made this happen. So your name could live forever with the Dad Ventures deck.
Remind everybody once again where they can go to find out more about Dad Ventures and the Kickstarter campaign.
Absolutely. You can go to our website. It's adventures.dad, not a .com, .dad, adventures.dad. There's a great big Kickstarter button right at the top. And if you're listening to this podcast after the campaign is closed, that's okay. I'm sure we'll still be around. Go to adventures.dad and you can find our store. We do have a blog and a podcast as well. The podcast is called Dad Ventures. You can check that out wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the driving force behind the Dad Ventures deck. Our guest has been Aaron Airmet. Hey, Aaron, thanks so much for being with us.
All right. Thank you, Jed. Thanks, everyone.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. We are so grateful that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We'd love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. If you are on LinkedIn, please connect with Jed Doherty. We also have a Reading with Your Kids page on LinkedIn. We would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Authors, click on the Authors Click Here button to find out how you can be a guest here in the show and find out how we can help you celebrate your book with the world. And also, parents, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com to download our free online magazine. Hey, we want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our amazing guest. I also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Chris Doherty, Ann O'Leary, Soji Franklin. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.